Thank you. I'm not a morning person, so I might be less exciting today than yesterday. But it's a privilege to be here, and I'm going to be sharing with you two short films that I've made, and then at the end I'm going to pitch you a short film that I'm working on. And we make feature films, but I really have fallen in love with short films because there are no barriers to distribution. We can get past the firewalls in China. We can tweet them into Iran. You know, there's nowhere in the world that is really outside of the reach of our short films. And I want to tell you a little bit about how I got into film, because we live in a very exciting time. Damon of Athens, the musicologist, said, "Give me the music of my city and I care not who writes the laws." And I think that's true. People often will feel helpless when they see the political tides of a country turn. But I do not feel helpless, because in my mind, I'm just going to fight you with art and with beauty. And a big coup, I think maybe one of the biggest coups of my career, is going to be pulled off in a week and a half when I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. And my next feature film is called Voiceless. And it premieres in theaters in the United States on October 7th. But our big premiere isn't going to be in Hollywood. We petitioned to premiere it on the lawn of the Supreme Court of the United States of America. They denied our petition, and then we had lawyers do whatever the heck they do. I had no clue. Filed this and that. And then the Supreme Court, realizing that we had kind of put them in a jiu-jitsu move, that they were in trouble whatever they did, we were going to use it for publicity. They relented and are allowing us to premiere our film. So the first movie ever to premiere at the United States Supreme Court is a pro-life movie. And I feel like a bear, scraping off bark, saying, "This is my territory." And a lot of people say, and then I get this from other Catholics, the kind that won't be here today. "Jason, I just love what you do. You're not like those other pro-lifers with their politics." And I'm like, "Did you read the rest of my bio? Like, I ran Governor Brownback's campaign for president. I worked for President Bush. You use art to change the hearts of people." And I go, "Yes, but only for one reason. I want to change the law. I am in film for one reason, and that is this. Every human being deserves full legal protection from violence. But that's not even enough. Every vulnerable community deserves to be protected from even the thoughts of violence. That we should live in a society where hurting the weak is absolutely unthinkable. And the way to change the law is to change the culture, and you can do that through film. But the best way to change a culture is to change the law. So you need to push forward." When Archbishop Fulton Sheen, I loved the quote yesterday in one of the talks. Fulton Sheen was such a courageous man. And a month after the United States had dropped the bomb on Hiroshima, he came out and said that today the United States said that there are no limits. Today the United States said that you can use violence to achieve any objective you want. He said that in a speech at Catholic University a month after the dropping of the bomb on Hiroshima. And so policymakers and lawmakers have a great impact on culture. But here's the exciting part. I would say from the advent of radio until Facebook, we were locked out of culture creation for the most part. There became big, powerful gatekeepers. It used to be that in every town in America there were bands, and there were boxing arenas, and that local sports was the center of the community in the States, and I'm sure it was the same here, and your local musicians were celebrities and celebrated, but then mass media obliterated that. And I hear a lot of people complain about the selfie culture, that people are obsessed with themselves, these kids are, but if you really pay close attention, they're culture creators. And they're making little videos, and they're singing songs, and they're sharing it with their friends, and people are celebrating it and liking it and sharing it. And I would much rather have young people producing their own content, sharing it with their family and their friends through social media and creating culture, than I would have them watching MTV and reading magazines about the people they see on MTV. And so this is the revolution that's happening right before our very eyes. And so all of us use media to communicate a message, right? From fashion, I'm communicating a message right now. I'm an American, right? I'm from the south side of Chicago. How many knew that from how I was dressed? Did anyone figure that out? Right? Because I'm wearing this. By the way, I want you to know I'm from the south side of Chicago. I'm proud of that. So we communicate. My scapular always likes to show off, so you know I'm Catholic. Architecture communicates a message. A friend of mine owns a bank in Wisconsin, Green Bay, Wisconsin. He was so happy to show me his building. He said, Jason, look at this. This was inspired by John Paul II's book that he wrote as a young bishop, Love and Responsibility. And I'm like looking at a bank building that was inspired by something a Polish priest wrote 60 years ago. How amazing is that? And that communicated a message. And he was explaining to me how his building celebrated the dignities of his investors, of his employees, of his customers. And he was really into it. And you saw that it did. Architecture communicates a message. And everyone in here has the ability today. I can show on your iPhone how you can make a movie right now, today, with very little effort, with your iPhone and iMovie, and you can put it on social media, and before you know it, thousands and thousands of people can see it. And this is liberating. And my wife, she's great. She puts me always in my place, and if I pull something big off, she always says, God uses you to shame the proud. Raymond Arroyo wrote in his book on Mother Angelica that God uses dodos. Mother Angelica would say God uses dodos. God uses people who are too stupid to know they can't do something to get it done. And that is, I failed every art class I ever took. I was kicked out of shop class in high school because I didn't want to wait for the bandsaw to cut my table, so I decided I would just sand 1.5 inches off my wood, which, the teacher didn't approve of. But, there's two things I have, and it turns out they're the two most important ingredients to be a producer. I'm shameless, and I'm relentless. And films are collaborative efforts. So if anyone in this room is inspired to tell the truth about the human person, about God or the world through art, film is for you. All of you. Anyone in this room could be an important part of filmmaking. What is great about filmmaking, it is really a collaborative effort. I got in film simply with the desire to reach more and more and more people with the message that the child in the womb has an incomparable dignity, beauty, and worth. And then my mind really, and through the grace of the Holy Spirit and my work around the world, I began to see that the child in the womb isn't really separated off from Christians in the Nuba Mountains or Yazidis in Syria. That really all of our vocations as Christians is to live in solidarity with the weak. And what's great about living in solidarity with the weak is you become weak. You cannot really be in solidarity with the vulnerable and remain safe and secure because you become marginalized. In the 1950s, if you were a blonde-haired, blue-eyed American from Chicago and you went to Mississippi and you were a freedom rider, your life was just as in jeopardy as your black friend from the South in the bus next to you. And a lot of people will say, Jason, and I was asked today, is it hard being pro-life in Hollywood? Or Christian in Hollywood? Not at all. Are there risks? Of course, always. There will always be risks to be in solidarity with the weak. And I am in film simply, if you look at all my films, The Stoning of Soraya M. is really about the plight of women in the Middle East. We have a film you'll see today, Sing a Little Louder, that tries to kind of combine all of them. But I didn't enter film to be rich, famous, or powerful. If abortion ended tomorrow, I would apply at my local high school to teach history and to coach football, because that's what I dream about. What I'm daydreaming about when I'm on a red carpet premiere is, I wish I was back home at the gym with the guys who I'm training to get ready for a fight. That's where my mind is, and so I'm thankful to God for that grace. But everyone in this room is a culture creator now. How many of you have a social media account and tweet? How many of you make videos or use Facebook Live or Periscope? Okay, you have to use Facebook Live. You have to use Periscope. You live in New Zealand. I live in Hawaii. I make a Periscope Live. Bing, 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 bing. Periscope is this app. You turn it on, like right now, if someone put me on Periscope right now, within minutes, hundreds and hundreds of people would be watching me from all over the world because you live in New Zealand. So people see the light for someone making a video live streaming in New Zealand, people go to it. I thought I was great at Periscope because every time I made a video, thousands of people would immediately jump onto my Periscope. And then I went to the mainland of the United States, living in Hawaii, and I put on Periscope. I'm like, hey, why isn't anybody coming onto my account? I thought the world loved me. And then I realized, no, they love Hawaii. And you click live on Periscope from Hawaii, and you've got people from Siberia and Brazil and every corner of the world going, what's going on? And they're watching a pro-life video, And anybody here can do that. Now, I want to tell you about Crescendo. We're going to show you Crescendo. How many of you have seen Crescendo? Okay, good. Not most of you. I want to tell you about Crescendo. We're having so many babies saved from Bella. And we were raising money for a film called Little Boy, and it was taking us a lot longer than we thought to raise the money. And I thought, we need to do something productive. And I heard somebody say, Jason, did you know the cathedrals in Europe were built to last until our Lord returned? And I said, that sound went off in my head. And I was like, that's amazing. Who did that? That was perfect timing. And I know we're going to end abortion in the United States in my lifetime. I actually know the date because I wrote a plan in November 18th of 1991, and it will be, children will have protection in the womb by November 18th, 2031. But ideologies of evils have a way of double back and coming around, and you think it's gone and it comes. Because I always say, even when I was an atheist, it's me versus Margaret Sanger. And I was an outside linebacker. She wasn't. I win, guaranteed. But I said, I want to defend the dignity of the child in the womb until our Lord returns. I'm going to die maybe tomorrow or maybe in 60 years, but I'm going to die. And I want to, for the rest of human history, to be boxing with the culture of death. So I took a whiteboard, and this girl, Jennifer Cadena, this young woman, is my partner in Movie to Movement. She's a Colombian actress. And I said, Jenny, how can we do this? Let's make a short film. It's got to be short because attention spans are shrinking, and we can disseminate it all over the world easily today, and then it'll be easy to disseminate in the future, so it's got to be short film. Let's try to make it less than 10 minutes. We failed on that. And then we said it has to be a true story about somebody in the world that everybody loves, from Brazil to North Korea, from Iceland to South Africa. This has to be a true story that everyone in the world has an affinity to, and it has to be the highest artistic value. We cannot scrimp. We're Catholics. We let the evangelicals make the nice films for us that we like, but the production values are embarrassing. We need to make a big, beautiful, short film. And then we put out the word to every writer in Hollywood we knew. We want a film that communicates the incomparable dignity and beauty of the human person across time and across culture. Go find it. And if you write the script, we'll let you direct it. Every writer in Hollywood wants to be a director, so that was our incentive. So all these scripts came, they were horrible. And then one day, a young man from Mexico who was an intern for us, he got picked up on immigration violation, and he was going to be sent back home. And he was crying. Edit this out of the tape, by the way, because he ended up not going back home. And I don't want Donald Trump sending him back. But he said, he came crying, Jason, I got to go back to my town. They're beheading people there. The drug lords have taken over. I don't want to go home. And he's crying. And again, I just like to comfort people. I'm like, well, I can't hire you right now or try to get you a visa, but if you produce a film about, if you can write a script about somebody that transcends time and culture that promotes the dignity of the child in the womb, we'll let you direct it. And then he's like, really? I'm like, yeah, but it's got to be good. And he laughed, and I'm like, to Jenny, I'm like, well, he'll never write a good script. He's a 24-year-old kid. And 2 weeks later, he comes, and he drops the script for Crescendo. My friend was Ridley Scott's construction and art director. I knew this would be very expensive. I said, I'm going to Louisiana. I come back. If you can sell my buddy to do it at cost, he's the best in the business, then we'll do it. By the time I come back, my office was turned into a major Hollywood studio. We had set designers and little models being built, and my friend had agreed. And then I said, we need one more thing. We need someone that's appealing to young women today, that has a big reach to young women today, so that we can get this film out to them, to influence them. And Jenny said, I heard that Justin Bieber's mom has the most influential Twitter account for teen girls. I said, okay, what's her name? She's like, I don't know. So we put on the whiteboard, Justin Bieber's mom, executive producer. And then I was meant to call her, but I chickened out because I'm afraid of failure, so I never reached out to her. I would do it tomorrow. I never did. And then one day when the movie was done, a friend of mine said, who's a big publicist in Hollywood, there's someone I want to show your film to, but I can't tell you who it is. I'm like, well, it's a short film. Do you trust this person? She's like, yeah. I'm like, you can't let it out of your sight. She's like, I have to mail it to her. And I'm like, no. And we went back and forth. She says, trust me. I'm like, oh. So I let her send my film to her friend. She said, my friend wants to meet you, after she watched the film. And so she set up a lunch, and this little tiny woman, she's like, hi, I just want to let you know I really loved your film. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Thank you for introducing. I'm thinking, why did my friend introduce me to this tiny little woman? And she said, yeah, you don't know me probably, but I'm sure you know who my son is, Justin Bieber. I'm his mom, Patty Millette. And I just want to know, how can I help you? And I said, would you be executive producer on my movie to get us lots of publicity? She said, I would love to. Because of her, we were on Inside Edition, Access Hollywood, The View, Ellen, everywhere in America. And then we used it to fundraise for pregnancy centers where Patty spoke on video before and after, and we raised $6 million that was split over 400 centers. So, and at the end it says, in loving memory of Jessica Jones, this film I made in honor of my daughter who existed but never had the privilege of being born. And with that, here's Crescendo.
Mein Ehemann sagt, das Leben ist wie eine Symphonie. Das sagt er mir jedes Mal, wenn er mich schlägt. Denn ich bin eine falsche Note.
Dieses Klavier gestimmt. Wir müssen aufpassen. Das ist aber ein großartiges Teil.
Ein ganz besonderer Mann. James Cook, ganz besonderer Mann.
Jetzt geht das wieder los.
Der war der Erste auf Tahiti.
Du sag mal, wie wollen wir den Flügel da hochbringen? Ich hab sowas noch nie gemacht.
Lass mich dich was fragen. Was glaubst du ist wichtiger? James Cook oder ein Reiskorn? Ne?
Wollen wir die gleichen Knoten benutzen oder einen dreifachen Flaschenzug?
Und was, wenn ich dir nun sage, dass das Reiskorn Bestand einer Ernte war, das ein ganzes Volk ernährt hat und dass James Cook sein Boot genau dort gebaut hat? Ne? Eine noch so kleine Sache kann große Wirkung haben. Kannst du dir vorstellen, etwas zu tun, das die ganze Welt verändert?
Kannst du dir vorstellen, wie wir den Flügel da hochkriegen?
Ein Klavier. Die zweitliebste Sache meines Mannes. Seine liebste. Jüngere Frauen.
Ist das Bischofshaus?
Es ist nichts passiert. Es ist nicht angefasst.
Vielleicht hat er recht. Mein Leben ist voller falscher Noten. Mein erster Ehemann, ein guter Mann, starb. Dicht gefolgt von meiner Mutter. Anschließend begrub ich zwei meiner Kinder. Und endlich erkannte ich, ein Mann war ein Monster. Wie könnte eine gute Mutter wollen, dass ihr Kind in solch einer Disharmonie wächst?
Das Übliche?
Ich will nicht in Bad Rianti. Dieses Mal möchte ich Angelika.
Haben Sie sich schon einen Namen überlegt?
Einen Namen? Für was? Namen sind nur Formen der Zugehörigkeit. Wissen Sie, wie es ist, mit einem Trinker zu leben? Sein Geruch? Intim zu werden mit einem leeren Körper, bis er einschläft? Ich werde dieses Kind nicht das gleiche Elend erleiden lassen, wie ich es jeden Tag erleben muss. Er ist kein Vater, er ist ein Tier.
Wonach Sie fordern, ist nicht dafür da, auf die leichte Schulter genommen zu werden. Angelika, Ihre Wirkung ist sehr mächtig und nicht zum Spaßen gedacht. Es darf nicht die geringste Spur des Zweifels bestehen.
Zahlen tut mein Mann.
Ich muss Sie vorwarnen. Im Innern der Schachtel befindet sich alles, was Sie benötigen. Nehmen Sie nicht mehr als 3 Tropfen des Öls. Tun Sie es, wird Ihr Mann nicht der Einzige sein, der bezahlt. Und Sie haben es nicht von hier bekommen.
Meine Meinung ist klar. Misstöne ruinieren eine Symphonie. Wie ein Klavier. Egal wie gut es ist. Wenn es verstimmt ist es nutzlos.
Ich habe Hunger. Mach mir etwas zu essen. Und wie kannst du es wagen, dich in meine Affäre einzumischen? Ich müsste nicht zu jüngeren Mädchen gehen, wenn du dich hübsch machen würdest. Du bist nutzlos. Dumme Hure.
Hilfe, bitte. Hilfe, bitte. Hilfe, bitte. Ich kann fressen. Ich kann nicht. Ich kann nicht. Misstöne ruinieren die Symphonie.
Sie haben bestimmt schon einen Namen für ihn, nicht wahr?
Was soll ich tun? Was soll ich tun? Misstöne ruinieren die Symphonie. Es sei denn, was wäre, wenn man die Misstöne aufgreift und sie verwendet, um eine neue Melodie zu beginnen? Deswegen erzähle ich Ihnen das alles. Ich glaube, Sie können mir helfen. Ich weiß, Ihr Unterricht ist sehr voll. Aber bitte sehen Sie sich ihn kurz an. Wenn Sie glauben, dass er kein Talent hat, gehen wir los und Sie werden nie wieder von uns hören müssen. Ich bitte nur um diese eine Chance.
In Ordnung. Ich mache dieses Mal eine Ausnahme. Wie ist dein Name?
Sein Name ist Ludwig.
Ich erwarte Ludwig nächsten Dienstag um 8 Uhr morgens. Frau von Beethoven.
Danke. Danke.
It's all true except for one part. It comes from her diaries. She was debating suicide or abortion in her diaries. And in the end, she didn't do either. So we were wondering what happened. And most likely a piano probably fell through the window and stopped her trying to commit. It's the most likely thing to happen. But we tried to be very realistic. In fact, I don't know how many of you know a lot about Beethoven, but his father was charged with molesting the little girl upstairs, the Fisher girl. And her last name was Fisher. And in the case against him, the evidence was he bought her a piano. So we used the sort of the evidence of his father's crime to be the instrument of his salvation. So that's our little film Crescendo. I was invited to show it at the United Nations. Did I mention this last time I talk? And which was just surreal because we made it to transcend nations. And so I got up there and I said, it's such a privilege to be here because we made this film to advance human dignity against ideologies of evil. And what a privilege to be at the UN showing my film, an organization that does more to advance ideologies of evil around the world than any organization I could think of. And they gave me applause. So if you go to the UN, insult them, they love it. So that's Crescendo. I want to show you my favorite part of the movie. Right here. I want to show you this. So this is really neat. When I get invited to speak, I hate fees, but it's how I fund my organization. So my staff hates when I'm the one to ask what my fee is because I'm usually like, oh, I'll just pay for me to get there. And so they have a rule like you do not negotiate your fee, and they got me an agent, da-da-da. Well, when this film was in its rough stage, and when it ended to when the credits were supposed to be done, it just said in big letters, in loving memory of Jessica Jones. There was none of the credits yet. That's all it said. The phone rang, and I answered it, and it was someone asking me to speak, and my assistant's like pulling out her hair, and she's like, give me the phone, and when the lady said, what's your fee? I said, well, you know, for you, it's free. And my assistant's like, oh. And I'm like, how did you hear about me? And they said, well, there was a poll taken of high school principals of most popular speakers to the kids, and you were the one, so we just thought we'd ask you to come speak. And I said, interesting. You know anything about me? No. Click. It was my high school girlfriend's high school. So I went to give my speech, and I showed Crescendo, and it was the rough cut version. And it was in the gymnasium. It was a small Catholic school that was also the cafeteria. And the movie played, and I gave my testimony that I gave to you last night. And then at the end, for the liberal nuns, it was a punchline when I said, oh, and by the way, at the very end of my speech, how many of you have boyfriends that go to Stag, which was my high school? Well, my girlfriend went here, and the girls started crying. And then I showed them Crescendo, and then at the end, beaming in light across the whole gym, was in loving memory of Jessica Jones. That's my daughter, who was aborted. And it struck me that although she didn't know my sound of my voice, and I said this to the girls, she knew the sound of this gym. She knew the sound of this cafeteria. She knew the trays and the gym shoes squeaking across the gym floor. And it was the first time that I knew I was in this very same place where my daughter existed. And so I'm really grateful to God that he gave me that. How do you not believe in... Clearly that's God's grace that arranged that. There's nothing in the universe that could have arranged that. And that clip of the movie only existed for about a month, and I was not even thoughtful of that. So I don't know, how much time do I have, guys? Who's the clock keeper? Like 6 minutes? 6? 10? So maybe I won't show the other film because that will take me over, and just I'll do Q&A. I will say that Sing a Little Louder I'm very, very proud of. And, or I could show it and we'll go like 3 minutes over. I really want to show it. Okay. How do I do it? How do I show it? Okay, there we go.
Is it on the other disc?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, it's on the other. Oh, it's on the disc. I forgot you're on mine. Now, we made this film. I love when people say my films aren't propaganda. We love your films, Jason. They're not propaganda. Yes, they are. Okay, that film was made to teach a truth, which is the incomparable dignity of the child in the womb. This movie was made for one reason only, which was to inspire Christians to speak out on behalf of the weak. That's why we made it. So, but I'm very proud of this film as well. Privileged to be a part of it.
This dream has haunted me for decades. There are some things that time does not erase. Sometimes the only way forward is by facing the past. This is my story. I lived in Germany during the Nazi Holocaust. A railroad track ran behind our small church, and each Sunday morning at the exact same time we heard the whistle from a distance and then the clacking of the wheels moving over the track. It was at the same time every Sunday. We felt the rattling from the trail of cattle cars, accompanied by the screeching of metal that would echo through our church walls. It was a Sunday in the spring that would change my life forever.
Jesus said, "Do not resist an evildoer. But if anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also." Loving your enemy. This is a far better way. This is how we were called to live. To understand this unnatural virtue, we must look to Jesus Christ as our model and our guide. His meekness was his strength. His silence, his statement to the world. We must pray for those who persecute us. Prayer is the mechanism that reaches heaven and moves mankind. Prayer. It's easy to underestimate prayer. But not this quiet action. Christ is the Prince of Peace. As we better come to know Jesus, we learn to choose as He chooses. We learn to love our enemies and allow God's peace to rule within our hearts. Sieg und Leben wiederbrachst. Ist aus des Todes Banden an sein Siegesfürst erstanden. Halleluja, Halleluja.
Wie heißt du? Wie heißt du?
Du, verschwinde! Verschwinde!
Years have passed and no one talks about it much anymore. I still hear that train whistle in my sleep. I can still hear him crying out for help. God forgive all of us who called ourselves Christians yet did nothing to intervene.
Do believe me when I tell you that the reality was indescribably worse than these pictures. You cannot photograph suffering, only its results.
Just the last 24 hours, more than 250,000 people have fled Rwanda and its terror. Lines at some border crossings stretch for 5 miles.
Anyone who ventures outdoors is fair game. Red Cross and UN relief convoys, even men and women in bread lines are targeted.
شنو هيجي صاير المهزلة احنا مسيحيين